Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Harsh Ranjan Sinha, Head of Admission at OP Jindal Global University and your host for this evening. It is my absolute pleasure to extend a hearty welcome to each of you present at the launch of a very special collaboration between OP Jindal Global University and University of Westminster. The speakers of today are Professor Samir Pandya from University of Westminster, Professor Jaideep Chatterjee and Professor Nisha Nair from OP Jindal Global University. Before I request the distinguished speakers to take the session ahead, I will take a few minutes to introduce both the universities. OP Jindal Global University is a non-profit, multidisciplinary and research-oriented university founded in 2009. JG was established by a philanthropic initiative of its founding chancellor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, in memory of his father, Mr. O.P. Jindal. JGU has over 14,000 students, 1,100 faculty members, and over 500 collaboration with international institutions spread over across 75 plus countries. The Jindal School of Art and Architecture is one of the 12 schools of JGU that produces pragmatic shifts in the way we make, think, and manage all built environments. From the most intimate to the most public, from analog to digital, from the real to virtual. JSAA is an academic environment that is creative, intellectually rigorous, making oriented, interdisciplinary, and innovative. It follows internationally accepted best practices of academia supported by a globally acclaimed faculty. We foster interdisciplinary work that cut across intellectual terrains and institutions worldwide, allowing students and faculty to actively address the most pressing issues and problems facing our world today. Established in 1838 as a polytechnic institution, the University of Westminster has a rich heritage of academic excellence and innovation. As London's first polytechnic, it was a pioneer in offering degree courses in photographic science, photography, and media studies. The institution is known for many firsts, including hosting the UK's first public moving picture show in 1896 and organizing the first marathon race at the 1908 London Olympics. Today, Westminster fosters on global engagement, fostering partnerships worldwide to support student mobility, collaborative research, and global citizens in a dynamic higher education landscape. Today's session is to launch and introduce you all to the partnership between OP Jindal Global University and the University of Westminster. I would like to briefly introduce our first panelist, Professor Nisha Nair, who is currently a professor of humanities at Jindal Global Law School and the Vice Dean at the Office of Admissions and Outreach at JGU. She's a fellow at International Institute of Higher Education Research and Capacity Building at OP Jindal Global University. Over the years, she has been responsible for various administrative roles at JGU, including being an assistant dean, mentorship program, associate dean, teaching assistantship, and the director of JGLS Arts Program, BA Legal Studies and BA Criminology and Criminal Justice at the Office of Academic Affairs at JGLS. Professor Nair did her undergraduate and postgraduate education in English literature from the University of Delhi and holds a PhD in educational studies from the Jamia Millia Islamia Delhi. Her research work explores education policy, quality, and strategies to enhance educational outcome in tertiary education. As a fellow at the International Institute of Higher Education Research and Capacity Building, she has been a key contributor and co-author of the State Higher Education Plan for Haryana and Rashtriya Uchtar Shiksha Abhiyan, and has also contributed in developing the Implementation Plan for National Education Policy 2020, a project undertaken by IIHED in collaboration with the Association of Indian University. To take the session ahead, now I will request Professor Nisha Nair to talk about the internationalization at JGU.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha, for that kind introduction, and welcome everyone to the online open house. Uh, well, internationalization is an important pillar of higher education for us. So there are multiple ways through which we promote internationalization at JGU. Uh, to give you an idea, we have three formats. The first is a short-term study abroad program, which is offered for a duration of 2 to 4 weeks. And these programs are offered to the students of all 12 schools of JGU. Then we have what is known as dual degree and pathway programs. Uh, this program is offered across different schools of JGU. So we have partnership with different universities such as the University of Westminster. We would be talking about the pathway program today more. Then from the School of Art and Architecture, we also have a pathway program which is offered in collaboration with the University of Adelaide. Besides this, we have partnership with Rollins College and multiple other institutions across the world, uh, uh, in collaboration with whom we offer the dual degree programs and the pathway programs. Besides this, we also have something called semester exchange programs, wherein a student from the partner university visit JGU and our student goes to the university abroad. So if you talk about internationalization from the perspective of the various programs that are offered, these would be the three prominent ways through which we promote internationalization at JGU.
Thank you, Professor Nair. Now I'll request our next panelist, Professor Jaideep Chatterjee, Dean, General School of Art and Architecture. Jaideep, uh, fondly called Swiss Army Knife Chatterjee, an obsessive compulsive multidisciplinarian, Jaideep is an architect, a historian, and an anthropologist with a doctorate in history of architecture and urbanism, and another one is sociocultural anthropology from Cornell University. Jaideep's academic inquiries traverse questions of design, visual culture, technopolitics, social formation of expertise, popular culture, and nationalism. His research on architects and design as a form of knowledge in post-colonial India has been published with prestigious academics presses worldwide. Jaideep has taught at several universities, including Cornell, the University of Cincinnati, and University School of Architecture and Planning, Delhi. In addition to his academic pursuits, Jaideep also actively collaborates with designers, architects, artists, and filmmakers to work on many interdisciplinary projects. In his free time, trains his pack of street dogs along with his German Shepherd, Norbu. He's also a science-free nerd who looks to cook, who loves to cook and doctorates everything, from restaurants menus to milk cartons. To take the session ahead, I'll request Professor Jaideep Chatterjee to introduce and explain the program we are talking about today. Over to you, Professor.
Right. Thank you, Harsh. It's really a uh, privilege to be able to launch this program. We're especially excited about it. And what I'll do is probably do a little bit of a slide share and talk about the program. Um, it's as Nisha said earlier, this is a unique bachelor's plus master's integrated international progression program. What does that really really mean? Well, to begin with, it starts off with your 3 years at Jindal, right? Uh, you 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 enter into one of our two undergraduate uh, programs. The first one being the BA Built Environment Studies, right? Or you enter into the Bachelors of Design Interior Environments program. You study 3 years, Chintan, right? Uh, After having completed your 3 years at Jindal, you go to the University of Westminster for a semester. That's your first 0.5 years at Westminster. While you're doing the semester abroad at Westminster, you're also getting trained and exposure into four different pathways at Westminster. The first of them being interior architecture, uh, the second being architectural, environmental and architectural design, the third being interactive media practices, right? And the fourth being sorry, the fourth being architecture design. Now, when after having finishing that the semester there, you return to Jindal. You come back to Jindal for your final semester, which you complete your capstone here. Uh, After that, you return back to Westminster and you get a choice to do a master's in either one of these four programs that were available to you, which you had kind of opted for initially, right? So it's in effect, what it is a 3 plus zero point 0.5 plus zero point 0.5 plus 1 year program, as you can see, right? It starts in the fall of 2025. And like I said, it kind of goes through this kind of very choice-oriented thing. So interior environments, Jindal pathway, built environment studies, Jindal pathway, right? You 3 years, zero point 0.5 again. I'm just repeating so that everyone can get it. 0.5 years at the University of Westminster. You work across four programs: the interactive media practice, the event design and management, interior architecture, architecture and environmental design. You come back having kind of made up your mind which of these four you want to. You maybe do a kind of a capstone project with us, which is somewhat related to your semester abroad that you've done at Westminster. You finish that, and then you go back to Westminster for your master's, right? So that's kind of that. And in a sense, this is a very unique program because for the first time, you have a program in India where you are practically getting a kind of a combination of choosing between 2 undergraduate degrees and 4 graduate degrees, effectively giving you a kind of a choice of 8 degrees through one program that you can kind of choose between. There's another aspect to this program that I would like to add, which is that at Jindal, you also have the option, especially at JSAA, of doing a minor along with this. So what you have is two major areas of work that you'll be doing, one at your undergraduate and one at the graduate level, right? And you will also be able to choose one out of the 12 minors that you can do across the 12 schools at Jindal. So, that's the program in a nutshell.
Thank you, Professor Jaideep. If I sum it for our audience, so any student who is willing to study this pathway program, the student will join us for 3 years first at Jindal.
Yes,
Will go to Westminster for 6 months,
yes.
for one semester,
One semester.
come back, complete the 4th year, and then go back to Westminster for completing the
Right.
master's.
Right.
Thank you, Professor Jaideep, once again. Now I'll request our third panelist of this session, Professor Sameer Pandya, to take the session ahead. Professor Sameer Pandya is an architect, associate professor, and director of global engagement at School of Architecture and Cities, University of Westminster, London. He has designed a wide range of award-winning projects in practice and has held visiting and external post at School of Architecture in Cyprus, India, Italy, Scotland, and South Africa. In addition to schools across England, his committee membership and chairship have included the RIBA Education Committee and Architects of Change Chair, and he is current chair of RIBA President's Dissertation Medal Jury. He was one of the 14 tutors invited to lead the studio at the inaugural Biennial College Architectura at 2003 Venice Architectura Biennial. His latest book, After Belonging Architecture Nation, Defense, examines the complex bond between architecture, spatial politics, and collective belonging. Professor Pandya, please go throw some lights on the internationalization of Westminster and the partnership with JGU.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. And firstly, let me say what a pleasure it is to be here to talk about this exciting pathway. Many people have worked very hard over many months to think about the pathway, how it's designed, from big picture thinking to the very finest detail in order to create a program that is truly innovative and in students' best interest. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all the colleagues that have worked hard on it, and also your Dean, Professor Joydeep, who's energy and forward thinking has been instrumental in realizing this vision. So on internationalization, firstly, just to say that at Westminster, we are already, I think, profoundly internationalized. And in a sense, that comes through in many ways, whether that's through our international research, which has a kind of truly global reach, whether that's through our teaching, which has an internationalized curriculum, or whether it's through our student population, who are very diverse and very international. So on average, in any typical year, we have students drawn from 180 different nationalities. And for us, we see that as a strength. We see it as a microcosm of London as a multicultural capital, but also a microcosm of the globe. So it's truly an international community. Our college and our school have many international partnerships and also campuses overseas. And we engage with our international partners in many ways, similar actually to Jinder. So we have progression agreements, progression pathway agreements, innovative ones like the one that we have with Jindal. We have student exchange programs, international field trips, and of course, collaborative research. And I think in terms of pedagogy and education, what we are ultimately, our ultimate objective, in addition to enabling students to develop disciplinary expertise, we want to create global citizens. Yeah, graduates who are global citizens are able to cross boundaries and be successful and thrive in multiple and various contexts. So a degree of resilience is built into what we teach them. I'll say just two very quick things about the pathway. You've already heard some of the details in terms of the structure and how it fits together. But for me, firstly, it's an opportunity for students to really shape their futures, to use the pathway to confirm who they are or wish to be as future creative practitioners. And it will also give their CVs, I think, global capital. And it's something that employers are looking for more and more in today's increasingly interconnected world. So we hope that's the case. And lastly, to say on the partnership, I think for us, it symbolizes a kind of coming together, not so much as two schools, but as two creative spaces that are complementary. We have many overlapping interests, and I sense a shared culture of inquiry and learning. So already, to me, it feels like a single school just enlarged. And I think that really will serve us well. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Samir, for sharing the details with us. And before I uh, throw the floor open for questions, I'll once again thank all the three panelists, Professor Nisha Nair, Professor Jaideep Chatterjee, and Professor Samir Pandya, for taking us through the detail of this collaboration and joining us for this launch today, and also to all the audience who are joining us from different places from the country and abroad maybe. Now the floor is open for questions. I'll be start asking some of the questions which have come to us from our guests who have joined us online. And the first question of this evening, I'll request Professor Samir Pandya to answer this for us. What is Westminster's approach to design and education?
Hmm. So from the perspective of the pathway, I'll start.
Yeah.
I'll start there. So the pathway includes engagement with two schools within our college. The first is architecture and cities, and the other one is media and communications. The School of Media and Communications is a pioneer in media education and is constantly innovative and has a worldwide reputation for the highest quality media studies teaching. Both schools are in London. And what's very interesting about that for media is that London is the center of the media industry in the UK. London is also the center of the architectural profession in the UK. So 40% of all architecture practices in the UK are found in London. And what that means for both courses is a real strong engagement with practice, the profession, and industry. And we have a huge network of practitioners that students are enabled to connect with and to benefit from during the course, but also in terms of future employment. So you asked something, the question was also asking something about design
Yes.
and approach. So perhaps I'll say something a bit about that in relation to architecture and cities. So firstly, our approach is holistic. Yeah. So we are a school of architecture and cities. So we're interested in how cities fit together. Uh, and therefore, we're interested in interdisciplinary teaching and education. So understanding the built environment in a holistic sense, how it fits together. And regarding design methodologies, we don't have a single methodology or signature approach or style. What we're interested in is diversity and choice for students. So we have our studio system, and each studio will explore a different kind of theme, concern, or interest. And that could range from the kind of poetics of space through to design activism, automation, live projects, climate justice. So that diversity is there to give choice for students who elect to follow certain paths and not others, and offers flexibility. Having said this, in terms of diversity and choice, there are two unifying elements that cut across all of the education and teaching. First is the need to engage with questions of climate justice and the environment. We think there's an ethical responsibility to engage with that topic, and we are a school that is interested in something called regenerative practice. And basically, that means working with nature and replicating and mirroring natural systems in order to maintain the environment. Um, and again, that's something that industry, like it or not, they are being forced to engage with, and they must respond. So we're looking for graduates who are literate in climate engagement. And then the second unifying strand is decolonization. And in very straightforward terms, what that means is that we constantly question through the design of our curriculum um, where the sources of knowledge are coming from. And again, there has an international dimension as well. So we respect and engage with knowledge systems, design approaches, and cultural context drawn from all over the world, global north, but also crucially, global south. We don't privilege either. We respect them all in the same way.
Thank you, Professor Sameer. I wonder, maybe once our existing students get to know about this collaboration, they may start coming back to us, checking whether they are eligible to apply for this pathway or not. With this, I'll take the next question. And this question I'll request Professor Jaideep to answer for us. How does this how does this program exactly work, and what makes it different from others?
Um, okay. Well, in some ways, I guess Samir answered part of it, but I'll try to add to that. Um, it it actually goes along in some ways with how we imagine the terrain of design at JSAA. Um, One of the ways when we started the school, we thought of that, can we think of um, a framework of knowledge which would be as much in the making as much as the very object that it seeks to depict. So a step away from saying, thinking of knowledge as a kind of a corpus, a body of knowledge which exists already, but rather thinking that it is a terrain that emerges as you explore it more and more, right? So if that's a basic idea which animates many things at JSAA, this program kind of does that for students. So imagine yourself as a student who is coming in year one and coming in at the foundation level. right? And at that moment, you have a certain idea of a prefix idea of what you think is design, and then you go through this foundation year at JSAA, which completely unpacks this idea of design for you, right? And then you have a program that kind of allows you to customize yourself, right? It's not so much a customization of the program, but rather a customization of yourself all throughout the next 5 years that are available to you, right? And so the idea is that you become this kind of an agent, a person who is not going to go out there and be one of those 500 designers which graduate, but you're going to be someone who's going to say, you know what, I took the idea of built environments from a digital point of view, did a kind of minor in communication, and then went into interactive media practices. So I'm actually someone who works on at the intersections of these three areas. Now, this is a fundamentally different way to conceptualize yourself, and to think about uh, how you're imagining your own employability, but also your own professional and expert identity, right? So it is to kind of detonate the state of affairs out there in terms of how we think of things, right? Um, it is also then to step away uh, from what's called a transmission mode of education, right? Which is that, so you think of, so if you stop thinking of any form of knowledge as a kind of body of knowledge which is remaining somewhere, but rather that something that appears out of the investigations that you do, right? So again, in that sense, what's important is stepping away from an idea of design beyond aesthetics, but rather going into defining the problem, right? So I think these are two very essential ways in which I think this program is very, very different from other programs that are out there.
Thank you, Professor Jaideep. I'm sure these very important details will play a very important role when student will be actually looking to join this program.
Yeah.
The next question I'll request Professor Samir to answer for us. The question is, what happens when once students graduate from the program, and what are academic and career support given to them?
So thank you. And I had a feeling this question would come up
Yes.
because it is, so I've made notes. It's very important, and I'm sure students and their parents are really keen to understand the level of support and opportunity they might have following graduation. Of course, at the moment, there's something um, uh, like the work visa, post-study work visa, which is called in the UK now the graduate visa, which allows students to stay on in the UK and to seek some work experience over time. So that will enable them to get some experience. Um, uh, and of course, there's the opportunity also for further academic study. So if you graduate from a master's course, of course, if a student wants to remain in higher education or go on to further study, there's PhD programs that we have, and they can get guidance and actually actively mentored towards a point where they can make a submission or an application for a PhD program. And we have a range of different modes through which we teach PhD. That support is available for them on a one-to-one level. After the students graduate, we have an alumni office that the students have access to, and they receive support for up to 3 years following graduation. And that is support for career guidance, uh, being made aware of job opportunities, and also networking opportunities, and just staying in touch with the university and the school in that sense. So there's guidance available. But the key point that I'd like to make here today is that we don't wait until they graduate to support them in their career. So three three key things happen while they're with us, while they're studying. Firstly, we have something called the Careers and Employability Service. So again, it's a service that works with hundreds of employers consistently and provides opportunities for part-time work while they're studying, but also involves in skills development, volunteering opportunities, but also graduate opportunities. When they graduate, they can go on to do something. So this is all really to upskill students, to strengthen their CVs and get them ready for the job market and even access jobs beforehand. The second thing we have is something called the Westminster Employability Awards. Now, again, there's access to industry through this award, but essentially what it does, it offers students a menu of 150 different activities, employability skills related, that students can use to develop skills, to gain experience, and to push their career in the direction that they wish to take it. And they complete a series of exercises at the end of which they get an award which they can present to employers to give them that kind of competitive edge again when they're looking for jobs. More locally and informally, and this is the last thing that happens, within schools, there are networks which are on offer to really, in a very dynamic way, get students to be aware immediately of jobs that come up in industry, part-time jobs, full-time opportunities, post-graduation. So, for example, in the School of Architecture, we have a WhatsApp group called the Practice Zone. There are hundreds of practitioners, hundreds of academics, and hundreds and hundreds of students as part of that dynamic group. And every day I'm part of it. I see job opportunities appearing in the morning. I see students signing up and getting job opportunities by the end of the day. And what's really interesting over the past 2 years is those job opportunities have become international. You know, just last week we had 3 students getting jobs in Dubai from former contacts of ours, others in Europe, and many more in the UK. So we're there for that support. Finally, I should say, it's not something that's available now, but it will be by the time students join us. If you Google search our School of Architecture and Cities, you look on Google Maps or whatever, you look up the address, you'll see our building, 35 Marylebone Road in London. And to the east, across the road to the building, is a very large 9-story block, which we purchased and which we are now on site renovating. It will be called Zone 29. It's 29 Marylebone Road. And that is going to be transformed into a major new employability facility, which has an online presence, but a physical presence in that building, which will offer students while they are with us and when they graduate, countless opportunities, cutting edge facilities, engagement with practice to help them access the career that they want and really, again, strengthen their CV and their potential following the career that they want to follow. So, sorry, that will open early in 2026. It's very exciting for us.
Harsh, can I come in on that question
Yeah,
too
please.
for a second? Because I think the employability and working with the industry is a fundamental aspect of even their undergraduate years at Jindal, which is there, right? And as we, in additional to what's their course curriculum, all students have to do a mandatory of 12 internship credits here at Jindal, right? And what is critical is that unlike other schools, the internship that happens is not really right at the end, right? So students at Jindal have to do, and especially at JSAA, have to do an internship almost anywhere between 3 to 4 internships all throughout their undergraduate program, right? And some of this is also curated in very similar manner that Samir just talked about. So, we too have extensive kind of systems through which students, our undergraduate students are, and their interests are mapped with a whole lot of potential employers who are already sort of partnering with the school. And in fact, we have more than 160 companies in the built environment, largely, broadly understood, who have tied up with JSAA. And these companies range all the way from policy-based companies, media, XR, you name it, anything, any company that's working with the built environment, in multiple ways. So they tie up, and then we have this elaborate process through which our students get a minimum of at least three companies every internship opportunity is for them to choose and kind of and do that with, right? um, in fact, one of the things that we talked about, which is a part of this larger partnership, is we are thinking of doing immersion programs for the folks at Westminster, and maybe for our students to also do some undergraduate short-term study where they can go and meet with companies in London and work on some very cutting-edge issues with practitioners in London as part of the program. We are kind of thinking of doing another flagship thing with the University of Westminster. So the idea of working and sort of being in touch with the industry is built in right from the foundation, I would think, all the way through this program, right? Both here at Jindal, but also, at Westminster.
Westminster.
Yeah.
Thank you, both the professors. I'm sure all the questions are equally important, but then when it comes to the experiences which students will be getting when they are in the class, when they are outside class, becomes all the more important. With After taking some of the serious questions, as rightly said, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So the next question is Professor Nisha Nair. What is the campus life experience of students at Jindal?
Thank you, Mr. Sinha, for that question. Well, we are a residential university. Therefore, if one is thinking about life at JGU and campus life broadly, we can look at it from the academic and co-curricular and extracurricular perspective. So I'll begin by talking briefly about academic life. So students here at JGU engage with the subject matter in multiple ways. So one of the ways is the traditional in-class teaching, learning process. Besides that, there are multiple group projects that they engage with. There are opportunities for them to also, as an extension of their curriculum, go out and work with institutions with which we have existing partnership and experience on-job training. This is an aspect of their academic life, which is supported by the Office of Career Services at JGU. Besides this, there are multiple student-led seminars that take place from time to time. There are conferences and talk with experts from across the country. Besides the engagement with the course curriculum, the students here also are supported in multiple ways by offices that are instituted to promote their academic life. One such is the Office of Academic Affairs at JGU, which is effectively a group of faculty members that take care of different aspects of a student life and learning. And through this office, we have something called a mentorship program, which is extended to students, wherein student can seek, particularly in the initial years of having joined the university. And since it's a different experience for most students, given that we are a residential campus, we have faculty mentors that are appointed for students to extend general guidance and also course-specific guidance in case the student is experiencing any difficulty in terms of understanding the course as it is being taught in the classroom. Besides mentorship, we also offer students the opportunity to work as research assistants under various faculty members. And in the senior years of their university education, they also get an opportunity to work as teaching assistants in programs or in courses that may have inspired them as students and in which they have attained a certain academic, a grade, which is an important eligibility criteria. Now, we also have a discipline, a committee that sort of works with students who are facing any kind of disability. So, uh, uh, I mean, these disabilities could be understood in different ways. It could be learning, it could be, related to physical movement. So the way the campus is also, structured in terms of our infrastructure, we have tried to make it an inclusive, a truly inclusive space for students. Now, this is a very brief glimpse of the academic support that is extended to students at JGU. Besides this, if I talk about co-curricular activities, we have an office of student life and cultural engagement. The primary goal of this office is to bring in artists and performers from across the country to our campus. There have been multiple sort of performances that we have organized within our campus for our students. Besides this, there are two major events which is spread across the 2 semesters in an academic year. One is the sports festival called Magnus, and the cultural festival Biswamil, wherein we have students from not only JGU but universities across India coming together, participating in various competitions, performances. So, I mean, our effort here at JGU has been to provide students a truly vibrant culture and enriched experience, which move beyond academics. Besides this, we have multiple, in fact, over 50 student-led societies, which has its own sort of, agenda in terms of looking at literature. There is a theater society, there is a debating society, there's a Shakespearean society. So students are constantly engaged in activities that is aligned with their interest. And many students would join these societies also to hone their skills, over and above what they do inside the classroom and the kind of skills that they acquire in the classroom. We also have a Center for Wellness and Counseling here at JGU, which offers students multiple workshops from time to time. So in all, we have tried to take care of our students and give them a sense of community and wellness during their time at JGU.
Thank you, Professor Nair. I'm sure when we talk about student life experience, what we try and create an ecosystem for student is a family away from family. We are a very strong community of 14,000 plus students, and most of them stay on campus. Out of 14,000, 10,500 students stay on campus with us. So that's the kind of ecosystem which we have generated and created in last 15 years of our existence. I'll request now Professor Jaideep and Professor Samir both to take this question and answer for us. Who exactly should join this program? We spoke about what we teach, where we teach, how we teach, but who are the right audience? Who are the right student? What kind of uh, you see in a student that someone should apply for this program and try to join?
Why don't you take that first, Samir, and then I'll.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. It's a good one and it's a complicated one. I mean, obviously, there are the entry requirements that are part of the brochure,
Right.
and students can look at that to see if they can meet them. Um, but I think for us, beyond those requirements and what we're looking for, I don't think there is necessarily a fixed set of attributes or qualities. There are some general things that we might look for. The first is a kind of genuine curiosity about their subject of interest, and we hope that that will come through in what they submit, whether it's an application or an interview or a portfolio, depending on the course. So we're looking for that curiosity and that investment in the subject area. Um, we're also, as you'll have hopefully picked up from the description of the program and the pathway, we're looking for students who are interested, and this is a very odd thing to say, who are interested in themselves. And what I mean by that is they're interested in taking ownership of their future direction, their future ambitions and career goals, and being interested in having agency and choice in their future career. So as Professor Joydeep said, not necessarily interested in receiving knowledge in a one-way transaction, but really wants to use that in order to advance themselves. And I think ultimately be happy in terms of where they end up in their career. Happiness, I think, is a very useful indicator of success. And we want students to feel strong, confident, happy, and productive. And we can look for those signs in students. The last thing to say before handing over is that we also like to understand students' context, where they're coming from. So we're not necessarily only interested in high achievers up until that point. Uh, we're interested in students' potential and a contextual understanding of where they're coming from, because what we are offering as an education is transformational. So we invest in students as learners, and the equitable reception of education. We want to serve the students well and to help them to mobilize and move forward. So we look for all of those things. So for us, that's obviously harder work, and that's labor intensive. We have to look closely, carefully, and process what we're seeing when we talk to students, when we read their applications. But for us, that's the only just and ethical way of engaging with students. We don't just look on paper at criteria and say tick box or cross. We don't do that. So we're interested in those three things.
Thank you, Samir. I think you've summed it up really well. I'll just add a couple of things to that. I think one of the very important things that we kind of see in students and think the kind of student who really enjoy this kind of a program is, and we were talking about this earlier, was somebody I like to call the tinkerer, right? Who's just not, who's really curious about what makes things work in the world, right? And who's not afraid to say, I'm going to take things apart in order to see how they work in the world, right? And who's absolutely open to doing that. And it's both taking themselves and the world apart at the same time. I think that's critical. And that's something we want to have students who are willing to take that leap of faith, into learning, right? And kind of surrendering that to say, okay, and therefore, it's something. It's also part of the way, the reason why the program is structured the way it is. It allows for you to at times say, all right, I took this path, and then I'll take a couple of steps back and then take another path in the program, right? So that kind of flexibility is what is allowed. So it's I, I I think it's a much abused term, risk takers. I don't really mean it in that way. But I mean it in the sense of somebody who is um, uh, who allows themselves to be taken by the learning, right? And is not going to say that, oh, I want to just learn that and get away from it, right? So um, transformational, but transformational through immersing yourself into learning constantly is what I'd like to add to that, right? So you are open, you're constantly. And one more thing that I would like to add is this idea of someone who cares about the world. I don't know why I think what's interesting is more and more, um, and I'm coming at it thinking about where design education as a whole is something that we are interested in pushing towards, is this idea of realizing that the world matters to you, and therefore you are involved in the world. You are not somebody who's going to say that I am this, I'm looking at myself to be this person who's at a remove from what I am going to work with, right? So kind of an involved and letting things that you deal with matter to you constantly, right? So almost an empathetic kind of individual at that level. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're looking for a student who says, yes, this problem out there in the world matters to me, and I'm going to, therefore get immersed in it and let it work, right? And it's going to take me in different directions, and I'm open to that. And I will say that we've been fortunate actually to get multiple students at JSA like that. In fact, just the other day we were having this discussion with one of our graduate students and students who just recently graduated. And one of the things that she said that she really enjoyed about the experience at JSAA was that she said that, I went through the program and what she found attractive was that it did not say what the end point of the journey was right at the beginning. And she said, that's what has been fascinating about JSA, right? So figuring out the path which is opening up while you are, walking it without saying that's the end path, right? I already have that in the direction. So we want a student who's like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay to that. I'm open to that exploration, open to that, all of that. So that I think is kind of what we are looking for in students. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Jaideep and Professor Samir, for taking this very important question because students should know. Uh, I'll come back to Professor Nisha Nair for taking this question. In such a progression program at JGU, what kind of support and assistance is provided in this transition by the university to the student?
Thank you for that question. Now, I had earlier spoken about the Office of Academic Affairs. So for programs such as the JSA and University of Westminster Pathway Program, there would be a program head or say program lead from the Office of Academic Affairs, who is a faculty member that looks after international collaboration. And they would be working in tandem with a program lead from our Office of International Affairs and Global Initiative. And together, they would be mapping a student's credit and suitability in terms of whether the student is eligible to apply for a pathway program or not. Besides this, there are multiple aspects of the application process, such as a letter of invitation, a letter of recommendation from JGU, the academic transcript, and whether the student has, say, cleared all the papers, what is their CGPA. So all of this is assessed and put into place with the help of these two offices and the individuals who are leading from these two offices. The Office of International Affairs and Global Initiatives, now IAGI, also extends assistance in the visa application process, in the documentation process. And one of the best part about the Pathway program is that because we have an existing collaboration with the institution, so this process becomes seamless if the student is found eligible on all academic criteria. So this is how the offices support any student who decides to take up a pathway program, and particularly this one.
Thank you, Professor Nair, for taking this question. The next question is, again, I mean, all the questions are equally important, but since this is on the financials, becomes all the more important. And this question I'll request Professor Jaideep Chatterjee to answer for us, is on the scholarship and bursaries available to the students who will be joining the Guaranteed Pathway program with OP General Global Universities, JSAA, and University of Westminster.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So, we have multiple levels of financial aid that that are given. Some at JGU and then some at the University of Westminster. Maybe I'll let Samir talk about the ones at Westminster, and I'll talk a little bit about the ones at Jindal. So for every entering student, we have something called a means come merit scholarship that is given to all students. Now, how that works at the university and the school level is that when you give in your application, there's a certain criteria which based on which there's a calculation that's done, and you are given by the admissions office the first year of scholarship that is there, right? And then this, if you maintain a certain academic record, is automatically renewed by the office of the school that you're in. So in case of this, the JSAA Office of Scholarship, yeah, or the Academic Affairs Committee would actually, we have a scholarships committee actually within the school, which looks at if you're maintaining your academic performance, then it is automatically sent in, right? Now, however, should you fall below that, then this money becomes competitively available for others who may not have gotten a scholarship right at the beginning, but then a chance opens up for them to kind of come into the reckoning and get a scholarship again, right? And then that is maintained if you keep your academic standard in place, right? But the initial computation of merit come means always remains throughout in place, right? So that's how we do it at Jindal, and every student who's going to come into this particular pathway is going to be eligible for the merit come means scholarship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I'll request Professor Samir to talk about the bursaries available to students at the time of progression from JGU to University of Westminster.
Yeah,
Please,
yeah.
over to you.
So generally, in terms of scholarships at Westminster, by and large, they're aimed at UK, the domestic home students, um, and now and again there are scholarships available for international students. But when we were going into the agreement, what we realised is actually all of the processes related to scholarships are competitive. And what we wanted to do is to cut out that competitive process. So what we did was instead is negotiate the equivalent amount in terms of scholarship as a fee, partial fee waiver. So we have a percentage immediately taken off of the fee for the pathway that all students will receive without any competitive process. And we short circuit that line, which means that some people might be included, some people might be excluded. So in a sense, then that is built in to the way in which the fees work. There have been, just to give an example, there have been processes in the past where fee waivers have been presented as scholarships, and again, it's a competitive process. We didn't really want that for students who are joining the course. We wanted there to be an equal level of access and funding support across the board. So we, in our discussions, negotiated that, and that's in place.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Jaideep and Professor Samir, for taking this question. To conclude this question, I'll request Professor Nisha Nair. When Professor Jaideep said means come merit, what does means actually mean for students when they apply for scholarships?
All right. So in JGU at the time of admission, we offer to all applicants what is called a merit come means scholarship. Now, merit is decided by your class 12th grade and, the program that you're applying for and what is the eligibility criteria uh, in terms of the marks that an applicant needs to have. So your class 12th result is one of the indicator of merits. Besides this, a student has to take the entrance exam for the course that they are applying, and the cutoff for the said entrance exam There could also be, depending upon the program, a statement of purpose that the student may have to write, or a faculty-led interview. And cumulatively, the score that a student gets in all of these is how we sort of arrive at the idea of merit at the time of application. Now, in terms of means, the parent or guardian, or rather the family income of the applicant, the student, if should be 50 lakhs or below or less. And then the student becomes eligible as per the means criteria of the merit cum means scholarship.
Thank you, Professor Nair. So when we talk about scholarship, students are first eligible on the basis of means, and those who are eligible on the basis of means, then they go into the merit criteria and the scholarships are awarded. Fine. Uh, the last question for this evening, I'll request Professor Nisha Nair to answer this question for us. What is the admission process for taking admission into our programs?
All right. So, we have an online application process, and for all, largely for all our undergraduate programs, we have what is called a Jindal Scholastic Aptitude Test, which is JSAT. For the current program, we have an entrance exam which is called JCAT, right? So I was talking about eligibility. So you need to take this exam. You can register online, and if you get the the grade that we are looking at, the cutoff that we are looking at, besides that, you have to submit a portfolio. For this particular program, you have to submit a portfolio. Your portfolio will be assessed. After that, there would be a faculty interaction. Generally, for all our other programs, like I've said before, you could have an SOP submission. You could also have a faculty interview or faculty interaction, and cumulatively, and on the basis of your class 12th grade, you get admitted in the programs across all our 4-year, 5-year programs leading up to a professional or bachelor's degree. There is a bit of a difference with respect to a 5-year integrated program that that is offered from the law school. Besides this, largely we accept the scores of JSAT and JCAT.
Can I just add
Yes.
something to that?
Please.
For this particular program, we are also accepting some of the national level undergraduate entrance exams in design which are there. So there's something called the UCED, for example, which is the undergraduate common entrance exam in design. Students with a qualifying grade in that will also be eligible, and then they can forego the JCAT. It's a kind of substitute for that. So that's also a possibility. We will similarly be also looking at the National Institute of Design scores which are available, which can be used as a substitute, or the National Aptitude Test in Architecture can be used as a substitute score. So any of the national level design entrance exams, if you have appeared for them, we can kind of give you a kind of a substitute that for the JCAT, which is the Jindal Creative Aptitude Test, right? So we can take the national level entrance examination test instead of that. But yes, the portfolio as well as the faculty interaction round will remain, which happens as a second after you've gone through the base level of qualifying for the thing. The statement of purpose is actually also very important when you apply for this program, but that's part of the original application form as far as I understand, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So, Professor Jaideep, a follow-up question on this. As we understood the admission process, are these all online, offline, hybrid? How this happens?
So yes, most of it is actually completely online now that we do, right? So in fact, we recently, we just had a slew of JCAT examinations which students could sit and take from the comfort of their home, right? And then next week, we are having our first sort of panels which have been set up, and students, we don't expect you to come to an offline kind of a center to do all of this. All of this is regulated wonderfully by the admissions team. We have panels which are there. There's usually a panel of 2 faculty members which are there. It's about a 20-minute kind of a thing on Zoom, and there are prefigured dates on which all of this happen. And once you do kind of qualify for your creative aptitude test, you qualify for that, and or you have been able to give in your other entrance exams, we schedule an online interaction for the student, and then that is there. And then after that, you're kind of informed about the result of your interaction, right?
Thank you, Professor Jaideep. Thank you, Professor Nisha. And before I say a final thank you to all three our panelists, I'll request a concluding remarks from each one of you for maybe a minute or so that we can say thank you to all the audience who have joined us this evening and say goodbye for this evening. Over to you, Professor Sameer. I'll start with you first.
Okay, thank you. And it's been great to have this opportunity to communicate what we think is the value of the program. It's an exciting moment, and we hope that our audience can sense why we're excited about the program. Just one thing in conclusion that I think I want to emphasize or to say about the program and what it also adds in terms of value for students is in being partners, certainly from the Westminster end, once they come through into our institution, before they come, during their stay, and after, we can add an extra level of care, support, enable them to enter our space with confidence, and we are very, very accessible. So as a partner, it's a very, very close contact and form of support that we offer, and that's the kind of added value. And we're very, very much looking forward to doing that, to getting to know the institution more, and to getting to know future students. So thank you again. It's been a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Professor Sameer.
Um,
Great, Jaideep.
Yeah, I'd like to say something very similar. I think what's really exciting about this program, apart from the specifics of what you're going to learn, is that you're going to become a part of this particular ecosystem that we are creating, right, across these 2 universities, which, as when you come into the program, you will realize extends far beyond the program in some ways, right? It extends to multiple intellectual, as well as other forms of exchange that you will become a part of, right? And it'll be across multiple levels, because you will realize that there are faculties which will be working across these 2 universities. There'll be research that is going to be conducted across these 2 universities, and all of it is things that you as prospective students will be able to plug into, right? And there are ways in which we see our students coming together and interacting with each other. And I think that's also going to be a very exciting kind of a space, right? So I think that's something I think which will be very unique also.
Yeah,
Okay.
may I just add one more
Please,
thing? Because
please.
you got me thinking about the complementarity
Yeah.
of us as partners. I mean, one of the big headline contrasts really is the difference between campus life here, which actually is a wonderful campus. I'm getting to know it. It's beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. And then in London, we are a city university. So we have a multi-sited presence in the middle of London, right at the heart of London, which brings other advantages to complement the ones that you have here. So that contrast in terms of university life and student experience is a really wonderful thing to look back on and to benefit from. So I just wanted to add
Yeah,
that
no,
because I think
fair
it's
enough.
an advantage.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks. Amit.
Yes, in fact, before I request Professor Nair to give her concluding remark, when I think of a student at his or her postgrad level, that is the time you have to be really be well aware about the challenges you face to come to office, the challenges you face, the city traffic, the challenges you face to get ready on time and board a bus or board a train or board a metro and reach uh, your office or your institution. So a student finally going to Westminster for the final year postgrad, that will be very, very handy for them. Having experienced 3.5 years of JGU campus life and
Which is,
then
yeah.
1 year of that city life, which will make them job ready in other sense as well. Over to you, Professor Nair.
Well, to add to what Mr. Sinha, Professor Samir, and Professor Jaydeep have been talking about, and in a way to sort of sum up, when we're thinking about education at JGU, and if you look at this course as well, there are these three things. We started by talking about internationalization, which is definitely at the heart of it. The students are getting exposed to not only pedagogy as it is practiced here, but they're also, I mean, we're also aware that the curriculum is informed by the best practices and the most latest updated course content. Besides this, there are multiple sort of ways in which there is like an interaction between industry and academia in terms of how internships are instituted year after year, semester after semester in the course curriculum. And all of this is again supported by offices like the Offices of Career Services and through the collaborations that we have with our partner university. And most importantly, the aspect of interdisciplinarity, which was talked about. So if you're looking at courses that are focusing on media practices, interior architecture, design, management. So what the student is effectively getting out of all of this, and particularly when we are talking about architectural design and looking at it in terms of environment, what they are taking out is perhaps what the world needs today, wherein students who are not only experts in the primary discipline that perhaps they have studied or ventured at the undergraduate level, or perhaps will further enhance that education at master's level, but also students who can actively respond to the concerns of the society, or the needs of the society that they are a part of, and sustainability is at the heart of it. So I believe, and I'm sure all of you would also agree, that we are right now at a time where students should ideally take a program that helps them think beyond, learn beyond, know beyond the disciplinary silos. And what we have here is a truly interdisciplinary, internationalized course that will help them transcend the boundaries, the disciplinary silos, and effectively respond to, the needs of the times that they are in, and pursue any aspiration that they may have, whether it is academic aspiration or professional aspiration.
Thank you, Professor Nair. Before I am saying I'll not ask any more question, one last question which is coming from me. Can I ask my students to start applying? When I say my student, I have students across the globe who keep connecting with us. So can they all start applying now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One word answer.
One word answer.
One word answer to
Absolutely.
that one.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
thank you, Professor Samir Pandya, Professor Jaideep Chatterjee, and Professor Nisha Nair, and to all the audience who took out time this late evening and being with us. And with that, I say goodbye to each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.